Welcome back to the second paradigm. This is B. And today we want to unpack something that certainly has the ability to change the course of people's lives. There's an understanding about intuition, and very specifically, the way we use intuition here at the second paradigm, that when understood and when differentiated inside of lived experience, fundamentally changes the way that people live their lives, changes entire timelines, entire trajectories, shakes up relationship dynamics, changes career paths, shifts major elements of personality and experience, how people feel throughout their day, their sense of self, their sense of whether or not they're on the right track. It is one of the single largest differentiators inside of experience, one of the single biggest factors inside of spiritual experience that makes or breaks someone's experience, that takes them down a path that's either more of themselves or more of something else that leads to existential crisis and some form of misery. This is one of the foundational concepts here at the second paradigm, certainly, and it's something that you'll hear David and Miriam and myself say very often, that intuition is the voice of God. And this, in and of itself, is a helpful, important concept. Being able to elevate your intuition to greater importance inside of you, acknowledging that that deepest inner rightness is something external, benevolent, and infinitely wise, let's say. Makes it far easier to trust those little inklings, those little nudges, or to trust it when you know that something inside of your experience is wrong. But what we want to talk about and sort out today isn't just this idea that your intuition is the voice of God. We want to sort out what we mean by intuition in the first place, because there are certainly different meanings of that word. And not everyone who uses the word intuition is talking about the same thing. We're not talking about your ability to predict events psychically. We're not talking about your clairvoyance. These sort of spiritual gifts certainly exist, and they're developed to differing degrees. But the place that you are reading, the information source that you are reading, is different in that space than what we're speaking about. When we say intuition, we mean very literally a real-time personal connection to God. And finding that deepest sense of truth is very different than sort of scanning psychically the timelines, feeling psychically into other people, feeling psychically into events, feeling psychically out into the collective to get a sense of what's going to happen, how people are feeling. That space, that psychic space, is very much real. But again, that's not what we're talking about when we use the word intuition. We're talking about your own personal real-time connection to higher benevolent wisdom, to God, to true, genuine goodness, to this calculation that's always sort of happening in these higher units of consciousness. This calculation of what is ideal given the circumstances. What is the thing that's available inside of your experience that's going to move you into more of yourself and into more of your own expression and into a life that's more representative of you? What's the thing that you can do inside of your experience or sort through or feel or bring awareness to that's going to help you to make decisions that move your life in a direction that's more representative of your actual self, the reason why you're here in the first place? And that sort of calculation isn't done by you using your psychic abilities. That's not what we mean when we say intuition. We mean that calculation is happening outside of you. That calculation is happening for you. It is a piece of the structure of existence. The thing that we call God and that David and Miriam call God is this massive calculator of the ideal. That's at least one of its functions, and it's delivering the ideal to you given the circumstances constantly. And this is why, when you're tapped into this intuition, this real-time feed, this connection to higher benevolent wisdom, to God, you know when something is wrong, when something's off, or when something's right, or when something's close to right but not quite right, and if you just make a few tweaks, then it'll be right. That's not just emotion. That's not feeling out the vibes and finding what works for you. There's an actual information source that everyone has access to. Everyone. Whether or not they listen to it is a totally different question. Whether or not it's differentiated enough from their own emotions, their own thoughts, and other things that they can pull from, psychically or otherwise, that's a totally different question. But everybody has access to a real-time personal connection to God. It is an open door. It is an information source that is constantly available to everyone. And it is delivering the ideal as seen from that highest perspective constantly in every single circumstance. Now, we said that this is the thing that changes people's entire trajectories in lives, that decides whether or not they're headed towards more of themselves in their truest expression or towards something else, some cookie cutter thing that is already here that isn't really quite them and never quite brings satisfaction, is always a little bit hollow. This is the deciding factor. And the reason why is because this ideal, this deep rightness, is the thing that generates those feelings of meaning and purpose. Those deepest feelings of meaning and purpose and things being correct inside of your experience only happens when you're in alignment with this information source. That is the feeling. And it doesn't matter on paper how good something is, whether the money is good, whether it's helping other people, none of that matters when it's not coming through that information source to generate that feeling of purpose and rightness. One of the main functions of God is to show you how to live inside of this experience as yourself. Something that's frankly very, very hard to do and very hard to see from inside this experience. So you have a guidance system that says, hey, given who you are and given what's available to you, what you're able to do right now, that's real. Not fantasy land, not it might be great if you had $1 billion and could help feed everyone, not fantasy land, real, given your actual circumstances right now and who you are truly as a soul. What are you able to do inside of that circumstance that brings the greatest benefit to yourself and hopefully to others. That's a win-win. What's the reason why you are here? One of the main functions of God is to deliver that experience to you. Now, when you learn to feel this information source and to find this information source, and you know what it is, you have the ability to follow it essentially all the time. We say essentially because it can be difficult at times, emotionally difficult to follow it. Sometimes you have emotions or other people are telling you things that make it very difficult to trust yourself. But if you were able to just sort of get over that, you would have the ability to walk a path, a sequence of decisions that would bring you into greater and greater harmony, let's say, with your truest self. Your life would become more of a representation of who you actually are, and it would generate more of that feeling of rightness. You would feel as though there's more purpose. It's not about having more money or less money. It's not about helping more people or less people. It's not about more expression or less expression. It's about, is the thing that I'm doing actually a representation of who I am? And how do I know that? How do I even know who I am in this world? What is me and what's cultural? What's me and what's my lineage? What's my parents sort of reaching through me and their parents and their parents' parents and their own patterns and ways of thinking and habits? What's my community? What's the collective's sort of responsibilities that it's given to me? What's everything else and what's me? That's a very difficult question to answer, but it's one of the main functions of God, is to show you that, is to deliver that to you constantly. Those who understand this and learn to sort out this information source that we can call intuition, or we can call a real-time personal connection to God, those who discover this intuition, not just meddling in the astral planes and feeling out the psychic potentialities of what might happen collectively and how to orient yourself inside of that to manipulate situations just right that you get what you want. Not that. That's adolescent. That's a different game. Those who gain access to intuition, as we're defining it as a real-time personal connection to God, have access to a pathway that leads them to more of themselves and more to that feeling of rightness. And if you follow that out, the timelines, there may be 1,000 different paths in front of you, maybe in 10 or 15 different major categories of this sort of occupation that you might have, this career change, this relationship change, this change in dynamic, whether you have this person in your life or don't have this person in your life, whether you step into more of your own expression or whether you stay a little bit more meek and reserved, whether you stay with this friend group or don't stay with this friend group, right? There are major decisions, these major sort of categories of experience. But let's say there's 1,000 different paths in front of you. You can weigh some of these things psychically. You can try to use your spiritual gifts to weigh where you might have the most money, where you might have the most things, where you might receive the most love, where people might like you the most. And countless spiritual people are sort of stuck doing this, partially thinking it's the way to use their spiritual gifts to make their life better. But the reality is, there is a single pathway that's highlighted inside of that experience, and it's highlighted with a feeling of rightness. That feeling of rightness is what we call God. It's external wisdom. Now, it's your choice always whether or not to follow that. But following that guidance is what we call the paradigm of light. And doing anything else is what we call the paradigm of darkness. And the paradigm of darkness, doing anything else, does not come with that feeling of rightness. It never will. Because that feeling of rightness, purpose, meaning, that deep feeling of, regardless of what's going on, I know that I'm on the right track. That feeling of rightness only comes with God. It's a package deal. For most spiritual people, if they understood this, they would stop doing what they're doing and try to reorient their lives around that feeling of rightness instead. But spiritual ideology, trying to make sense of these psychic phenomena, trying to make sense of your intuition, trying to make sense of your own emotion and your experience is a very difficult thing to do. And most information out there is purposefully confusing. We can get into that another time. But for now, we just want to draw your attention to the possibility that there is a source of information inside of you that is God, not the God of the Bible, not the God of rule sets, not the God that is judging you, not the God that is angry or ever could be angry at you, but a God that is an open door to meaning and purpose. A God that is an open door to that feeling of rightness. And that if you orient your life around that feeling of rightness, you will have more of it. Now, there's no guarantees that this is the maximal path of wealth. There's no guarantees that this is the maximal path of people liking you. Those are different trajectories. This is maximizing zero vanity metrics whatsoever. It's maximizing one thing. How much of you is present inside of your experience? And how much are you moving toward or already inside of your expression as a soul, the reason why you're actually here? That's what this pathway is trying to do. That's what God is trying to lead you into. And those who understand that and actively choose to follow that source of information, to follow that guidance, receive that sort of inner reward of that rightness. They feel good about themselves and their lives, and they move into a life that's more representative of them, move into more of the reason why they're here in the first place. Those that do anything else find something else. And what you find with anything else is whatever that thing is, minus meaning, purpose, and that feeling of rightness. That's a trade that everyone has to make. That's a decision that everyone has to make. Do I choose rightness and my position as seen by God here on this planet? Or do I chase something else? Security, fame, social status, safety, the status quo, responsibility, obligation, yada, 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 yada. We just want to explore that possibility a little bit today, that maybe there's a source of information inside of you that can lead to a significant increase in the amount of rightness in your life, where things don't feel so wrong anymore, where things don't feel so fake, hollow, and meaningless anymore. That's not a symptom of life. That's not just, oh yeah, I have some emotional challenges I'm working through. That is a very real trade-off that people are making. That's a very real decision that's in front of everyone. Do I follow rightness as seen by my real-time personal connection to God, or do I follow something else? Do I trade my rightness for something else? From our perspective, that's called reclaiming your free will. And one of the largest inhibitors to you reclaiming your free will is all of the confusion out there, on purpose, by the way, to keep you from even seeing that that's a decision. There are countless false promises made to you every single day that's inside of even your own collective psyche. Your own collective psyche has been gaslit for so long that now it lies to itself. That it is possible to chase something other than the rightness and to find rightness at the end somewhere. Once I get there, then I'll discover rightness. I'll discover meaning and purpose. I'll feel better then. You never will. Nobody ever has. That's the lie of your collective. And as much as we can punch through that and show you the actual decision that's here, the more you have a shot at choosing a path of rightness if that's what you want. And frankly, most people do. So with that, so much love to you. We'll speak to you at a later time. Hope we gave you some things to chew on. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.